Welcome to the Royals Rundown Podcast, the premier Kansas City Royals podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jake Milham, and joining me tonight are Jeremy Greco and Greg Walker this Wednesday evening. Guys, how we doing tonight?
I just started my holiday weekend a couple hours ago. I am tired, but looking forward to all of the food and fun I will be enjoying this weekend.
Yes. Greg, how we feeling, man?
I'm doing great. It's been a while since I've been on this show, so here I am to veer into college baseball as usual.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
No, I'd swear if we're veering into college baseball in November, that's some strong veering, okay?
Yeah, we're in the middle of like the not season for college baseball since it starts in February, ends in like late June. And so, it's been 4 months since I've actually seen them, or I guess 5 months. I don't know. It's been a long time. They're still not even starting for another 3. So, yeah, we're really in the doldrums at the moment.
Greg looks like he's about to veer into a blizzard.
I know, right?
It's cold out here in Kansas City right now.
But you're indoors!
I don't like to run the heat. Costs money.
Me neither, but I don't feel the need to wear a hat to keep myself warm when I don't run the heat.
Well, it's partially that. It's also partially a style choice.
Fair enough.
You make the best style choices.
He does.
For certain definitions of best.
I get that a lot.
He definitely has the most distinct style on the podcast, Jeremy. I think so.
And
Greg,
I'm the one who's got half his head shaved and the rest is blue. So
fair. Greg, what do you run the house at in the winter? What's the temperature?
I have yet to run the heat this season. So
you weren't kidding.
Not applicable. Like it doesn't the apartment doesn't seem to get that cold. At least we haven't had any day where it's just been below freezing all day yet. And so we'll see what happens once it's like that. But as of right now, it hasn't been too bad.
I swear my apartment neighbors must run their heat incredibly high because I don't run my heat in the winter either. And sometimes I actually have to run my air. It'll be 20 degrees outside and somehow it's like 80 in my apartment. And I'm like, no, I am not doing this.
Wow, that is absolutely ridiculous. I wish I had that problem, honestly.
Yeah. There are real pros to having an apartment.
Yeah, they are few and far between, but I imagine that's one. Well, hey, we're not here to talk about HVAC. We're here to talk about some Kansas City Royals. And if you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas City Royals, you've got to stop by RoyalsReview.com. You can also find them on X and on Facebook. Plus, you can support the podcast and get more of our takes on X and TikTok at Royal Rundown Pod. But the best spot to keep the conversation going with us is on Spotify. You can respond to our polls and questions and answers. If you respond to the Q&A, we will read your response on air in the following episode. Now, before I read off the responses, Jeremy, I want to get your thoughts on this first. So I put up a poll that said, grade the Royals trades and moves from this past week. A, B, C, D, and F. What grade would you give it?
C. I guess.
Yeah.
Like I said, I really liked the Kowar for Wright trade, and the Cash for Anderson trade was pretty good too.
Jeremy.
We had this issue last time we recorded also. Funny how that works.
I know, right? It's listen, it happens. Greg, while he's getting back in, do you mind giving your thoughts? Grade the Royals trades and moves from the last week.
If I were just grading those 2 trades with the Braves, which might as well have just been one trade, but they were 2 separate transactions technically, I would give them both an A because at this point it's like cash considerations, whatever. Jackson Kowar, if he was going to be anything in Kansas City, I think we would have seen something by now. And it's just, I think it's been pretty obvious for some time that it just wasn't going to work out with him here. Whatever his issues were, I don't think the Royals organization was going to be able to fix it. And so I'm okay with moving him and getting a guy in Kyle Wright, which shoulder injury is scary, right? He's probably not going to pitch next year. At best, he's coming back in 2025. But the one season he was really fully healthy in the major leagues in 2022, he was really good. And so I'm okay with kind of banking on the upside there, and especially he's still like fairly young. I believe he's 26 right now, and so those two moves I'm okay with. Taking a flyer on a guy like Nick Anderson, he's been super nasty in the past, so I like that move too. As far as the contract decisions, like tendering Taylor Clark was kind of surprising. Tendering Josh Taylor is surprising. Those were some weird moves. I wasn't a huge fan of those. I'm going to give them, I'll give them a C just because like I don't know what else was going to happen. Like I know that some are wanting to non-tender those guys and like, oh, you need to try to build your team through the Rule 5 draft. I'm like, okay, that's not a team building strategy. I'm sorry. Like you're not getting star players in a Rule 5 draft. You're lucky if you're getting somebody that can even like stick on the roster the entire year for that matter.
Yeah, exactly. That's looking at the Rule 5 draft to make the 26-man roster better in the next season is not a great strategy if you ask me. I would, looking at everything, I'd give him a B. I'm a little bit more bullish on the two trades. I mean, at the end of the day, you turned a negative WAR player and some money into two guys who have injury problems, but have proven to be high upside players coming from a winning organization. Hard to be mad about that. I'm just hoping that maybe the free agency and trade chips fall in the right way, and we don't see both of Taylor Clark and Josh Taylor back on the 2024 roster. That's a little bit more optimistic, but we'll see what happens there. Jeremy, welcome back.
Thanks.
We love technology.
Yeah, I kind of fascinating. While I was gone, I was looking on my phone and I saw Kyle Wright is in the news talking about Atlanta. Fansided has an article about Kyle Wright saying Braves aren't going to spend this year. That's why he got traded.
That's interesting because I heard a report from like a couple weeks ago the Braves were looking to add payroll. So getting conflicting messages here.
Yeah, I think Kyle Wright, just kind of reading between the lines and skimming this article, Kyle Wright seems to be pretty upset about being traded and really want to go. But as we've kind of talked about before, he's not going to pitch this year. And a lot of people question whether he'll ever pitch again because I think I saw on here 6 of 7 pitchers who got the surgery he got have never pitched for the major leagues again. So he's a real risk to just never play again. And so I think that might play into even more than the fact I talked about how Jackson Kowar is actually available next year and they want to compete next year. So Atlanta wanted somebody who can actually pitch. But if they're worried that Wright may just never pitch again, then yeah, it makes a lot of sense to get Kowar.
Yeah, it definitely does. So getting all those grades, I will say it was pretty evenly split. We only had one F vote, which is always good amongst Royals fans.
I'm sure I see where an F could define those moves. Like there are some that I'm not happy about, but it's not an F. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, there is a certain subset of fans out there that are just going to hate everything the organization does because they just assume that the organization is always making the wrong move and just has zero benefit of the doubt, which I sort of get that, but not really.
Why don't you just pick another team at that point? Like you're not
really like you don't have to support this team.
Like, you're supposed to be having fun. If you just assume that everything is going to go bad forever, then why bother?
Yep. Don't give him your money. Don't give him your time or your mental energy. Just keep it moving if you want more win in baseball. We like the Royals, though. I will say that.
My co-host is actually a Royals or an A's rather and a Bears fan, and so I'm just like, you could just switch teams. Like you don't have to put yourself through this.
That's pretty bad combination there, Greg. We need to be getting on your guy there.
He's a lost cause.
That's like intervention worthy.
Yeah. 33% responded to the poll with an A, 33% with a B, and 22% with a C. So most of it came out in the top half at least, which I can't be mad about one bit at all. But getting over to the Q&As, we had a ton of responses. But first, on our November 13th episode, we asked, what are you all hoping for this winter? Could be Royals related or not. Nash fans, Sam, said, hoping for a Bobby Witt extension and some more Royals moves to see the team be more competitive than the next couple of years. I assume in the next couple of years. Let's see here. Sam goes on to say, love the podcast. I usually listen on Apple Podcast. You guys are great. Well, I hope we have converted you, Sam. We like hearing the responses over on Spotify. And on our last episode, we asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, how aggressive do you want Kansas City to be in free agency? Greg, I want to get your thoughts on that first, and then Jeremy. Greg, how would you respond to that question?
Well, it's not my money. So I'm going to say 9, even a 10, because, really the big issue on this team right now is, everything really, but the pitching is a massive issue. And that's kind of the strength of this free agent market is there is a lot of pitching out there to be had. And so I wouldn't mind seeing them actually go after some of those high-end starting pitchers. Even bullpen help. I don't care. Throw a bag of money at Josh Hader. Get a guy back there. You can say that there's not much value for bringing those guys in a bad roster, but I think a lot of people are just locked into this mindset of you need to have the young core in place first before you can get free agents. And I don't subscribe to that because the Rangers this year are an example of, hey, you can get the free agents first and then have your young prospects come up and be the supplementary guys, which makes a difference. With a guy with the Rangers this year, like Evan Carter, the fact that he could come up and just be a supplementary guy and have no pressure rather than coming up and the expectations are immediately, you need to carry this team. You are our 3-hitter. You are the guy now. The fact that he just come up and be himself takes a lot of pressure off the guy and look for these young players. That makes a huge difference. And so I'm okay with bringing in some young talent so you're not just putting everything on guys coming up from the minor leagues or guys in their second year.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what would you put it, scale of 1 to 10?
I would be a 10. I already wrote my article for this weekend because I did not want to have to be doing it tomorrow while I'm trying to digest the turkey. But what I wrote was basically what Greg just said. The Rangers went out and made some big free agent splash moves right after they lost 100 games in 2021. They went out and got Corey Seager. They went out and got Marcus Semien. And then, everyone's like, oh, well, that didn't work. They lost 94 games in 2022. And then they won the World Series this year, in large part because of the performances of World Series MVP Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Among other, John Gray, they also signed in 2021. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who they traded for Mitch Garver. So, there's a lot going on there, and like Greg said, there's something to be said for protecting those guys in the lineup. I think I wrote about that last week when I said, okay, you can't build a team through free agency, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't be spending on free agents. The problem the Royals have had in the past that we have, had real issues with is they sign a guy like a Lucas Duda, and it's like, okay, Lucas Duda is now blocking your first base prospects, but he's also not protecting the rest of your young lineup. He's just taking money and being a whole. It's just not helpful. So stop bargain hunting. There's an element of bargain hunting that you can do out there. We talked about, okay, Nick Anderson, they paid cash for him. They're going to see what he can bring to them. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not. And Aroldis Chapman worked out last year, obviously, even though there are all kinds of other tertiary issues around him that we don't really like. But also go out and get a guy that you can count on. Give them somebody to rally around, somebody that can protect people in the lineup so that these guys can grow and think that wins are possible.
Yeah, I think the fan base needs that as well right now. If we're just going to be going out and getting guys close to the vet minimum, then why should fans buy in and think that person is actually going to contribute in a meaningful and positive way? Going through the list of the responses, Nash fan Sam also, he's had an 8, reasonable but more aggressive than the Royals ever have been. They should be like the Rays and Brewers every year. They should be at least battling for a playoff spot. I do agree that would be, I think that's a fair bar to set for any MLB team, that you at least want them in contention. And I think the Rays are always a good franchise on the field to follow, if you ask me. And, okay.
The Rays win. They don't win World Series, which some people have a problem with. I'm a guy who get me to the playoffs, and then let's see what happens.
Right.
But they also, the thing about the Rays is that they don't keep their stars. And at that point, you're rooting for laundry instead of for players. And that is not as much fun to me. Like, I'd rather root for a Mike Sweeney or for a Bobby Witt Jr. or than the uniforms that the Royals are wearing. I don't care about the uniform. It doesn't mean much to me.
Oh no, those powder blues are pretty sick, Jeremy.
I preferred the blacks.
Oh my gosh! All right, we're not dissecting that. Aiden Dallas said 8. The bottom of the roster should look like a turnstile. Hard to disagree with that. Ginger 620, Jeremy, she said a lot of the same things that you did. She said 7 to 8 in that range. The Rangers proved it's better to be a year or two early with free agency signings than too late with them. However, we shouldn't be more aggressive than necessary on a weak free agent class. A friend of the podcast, Lux, said 9, not a 10, only because they can't sign Nola anymore and no one else is worth a 10 out of 10 aggression. If the Royals want to be even remotely competitive in 2025, now is the time to sign multi-year deals. Greg, I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you agree? Like right now, you need to go out and sign some good quality guys to like 3-4 year deals.
I don't see why not, especially if they're going to be pitchers. Like, I understand that there's not really much to get offensively in free agency right now, and so maybe wait till next year. I'll admit I haven't looked at next year's free agent class yet, and so I have no idea what that's going to be like.
Pitchers next year too.
Oh, thank God. Well, it's weird. Like, I feel like a lot of people have this attitude during an off season, like you're signing guys only for the following season, and it's like you can sign players for more than 1 year, right? Like you're getting them beyond just the upcoming season, and so yeah, unless you're signing guys to only 1 year deals, then I think they absolutely should be adding something in free agency right now, even understanding they're probably not going to be competitive in 2024. Like, go out and get some arms. Come on.
Hey, hard to disagree with that.
This also goes back to what I talked about this year, where a guy like a Michael Massey is perfectly good. He's perfectly legitimate Major League Baseball player. He shouldn't be batting 3rd, 4th, 5th. He should be batting 7th or 8th. And you need other guys who can hit so that he can go to a spot in the order that makes more sense for him, is more comfortable for him and for the team.
So, hold on. You're telling me you don't want to see Kyle Isbell batting 4th and 5th anymore? You don't want to see that, Jeremy? You don't enjoy that experience?
I'm good on that. I don't need to see that anymore.
I've
evaluated Kyle Isbell as a cleanup hitter and determined that I would like to move in another direction, please.
Wow, how very political of you. Greg, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't really have anything, but I do actually kind of have a question. Why was Matt Duffy on the roster for all of 2023?
Good question.
Like, I just assume that those are the free agents that Kansas City is going to bring in.
It's kind of sad but true. But listen, if they bring in a guy like Matt Duffy when they have a guy like Nick Lofton, who is just the perfect super utility player who can, come off the bench.
Not to mention Samad Taylor.
They had Nicky Lopez on the roster, and they still signed Matt Duffy.
Yeah.
Fair. Oh, my gosh. Listen, they just love undersized, versatile defenders who hit for contact and then peter off into nothingness as the season goes on.
Is it still hitting for contact if you hit it like 60 miles per hour on the ground directly at the infielders?
Yes. Yes. Still hitting for contact. Obviously. Going on with the responses, Luke57 said 10. They should be aggressive and go after everyone. If they don't sign Ohtani, they might as well give up.
That's the spirit.
All right.
But seriously, they should be spending a lot more just trying to be competitive. I got the sarcasm there, Luke. I appreciate it. Royal Rupert said Spinal Tap 11! Exclamation mark. So we're going over the scale. We're breaking it. And then Corey Michael had the most lukewarm response. They said 5 to 6. It needs to start with a Bobby extension. Until that happens, nothing else matters to me. Jeremy, do you kind of feel that way about this offseason? Like everything needs to come after the Bobby extension?
No. There's no reason you can't do both. And there's no reason to say, well, I'm not signing any free agents. I'm going to let all the good free agents leave the board because I'm still negotiating with Bobby Witt Jr. No. Sign them and Bobby Witt Jr. whenever both of those things happen.
You might be overrating their capacity to do multiple things at one time.
Well, if I am, maybe I should find another team.
Have we ever seen JJ Piccolo walk and chew gum at the same time? I'm just asking. Just asking the question.
Maybe let's get Alex Gordon to be the general manager because we know he can do lots of things and blow bubbles at the same time.
That's the skill that we want in our GM. The ability to blow bubbles.
Turned out to be a pretty good GM for Texas. I'm just saying.
All right. You got me there.
The world champion Royals might be an untapped market for general managers.
Salvador Perez, here you come.
I mean, Chris Young did also have a Princeton education, so that might help.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about running and blowing bubbles and winning a World Series.
Greg, stop bringing
smarter than that.
sense into this.
Sorry, I'll get out of here with my facts and information.
Jeez Louise. Well, hey, speaking of facts and information, so I want to say
hang on a second. Greg, why you gotta slander Nebraska like that? That just seems uncalled for.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure Alex Gordon didn't finish his degree, so there's also that.
It doesn't matter. He went there. He was there. It happened.
If one of those schools is going to give you the knowledge to run a baseball franchise, then look, I'm not an Ivy League fan at all, but like Princeton's probably giving you more of that knowledge than the University of Nebraska.
Greg, you're going after like a third of our listenership right now. Okay.
At me. I went to a Division II school, so like I have a horse in this race.
What's it like to go to an elite college like a level 2 school, Greg?
It was pretty fun. I had a good time.
Hey, and here you are sitting with us instead of blowing bubbles.
I can't blow bubbles with gum. Full disclosure.
Can you do it, Jeremy?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Elite.
I didn't realize it was difficult.
Talent.
I've never really tried, but that's how I know I can't.
I don't do it very often because you get the gum in the beard and it's not a good time.
Yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously I do too now, you know. It's just a terrible thing. It's an awful thing.
I can't help that I'm on a podcast with literal children.
Wow, Jeremy. Wow.
Don't know what to tell you.
Shots fired. Oh my gosh. Can you not take that back? I'm a proud member of Gen Z. Okay?
I'm not taking anything back.
Gen Z, best generation.
Whoop, whoop.
Babies, small little children.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey, speaking of small little children,
that's a terrible segue. Stop.
No, please. Abort.
Yeah. I'm cutting you off on that.
No. I did that to be painful. No, listen. I'm just gonna get us back on the road. So one of the biggest offseason trade names on the Royals roster right now is, without a question, Salvador Perez. I think like the fan base has kind of chosen their corners on if they want Salvy back in 2024, if they want to move on from him and his really, really big contract that runs for a few more seasons. He's on the decline.
My favorite conspiracy theory is that the Royals released their promotions schedule for next season.
Oh my gosh.
And Salvador Perez is not in any of them. So I was like, yeah, well, if Salvador Perez, they planned on him being here, they would promote him. So they must not plan for him to be here.
He wasn't on the poster for like their winter event either. Like, come on.
Okay,
do they need to promote him? Everybody in the city already knows he's on the team.
You need him to promote the Royals. When you put him on the poster, when you put him in the promotions, you're not promoting Salvador Perez. You're saying, come see the Royals. We're the home of Salvador Perez. And so I do think there's a little something there, a little smoke. I'm not saying there's a fire, but there's a little smoke. There's a little like something happening. Something. Anything?
Somebody's vaping over there.
Just blowing clouds up above. Oh my gosh. All right. So he's not just a trade target from the Royals fan base, but like other teams who are needing catching help desperately. The Miami Marlins are a team that I know targeted Salvador Perez this past trade deadline. The Chicago White Sox apparently inquired about him as well. So it's starting to get a little bit more national attention, especially as the hot stove is kind of a little lukewarm right now. So the Athletic do a good job of their Q&A stuff. Jim Bowden, which I hope I said his last name right. Greg, you're rolling your eyes. Did I say his last name wrong?
No, I'm pretty sure you said it right. It's not about how you said it. It's just about that you said the name Jim Bowden.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. Yeah, he's real popular guy in the off season.
Yeah,
apparently.
Not as popular as John Heyman. Yeah.
Woo.
Bob Nightingale.
Bob Nightingale. That poor guy. Anyways, we're not getting derailed. We're not talking about these talking heads. We are the talking heads here. Okay.
Oh no.
I know, right? So he was responding to some reader questions and things like that. Someone tossed out a trade proposal for Salvy to go down to the Marlins. It was a pretty decent package, and he broke down the package, things like that, and why it would work for both sides. But the thing at the very end that caught my eye is, quote, however, the Royals have made it clear to me that they are not trading Perez, and he'll finish his career as a Royal. Jeremy, I want to get your thoughts. How much stock you putting into that?
Well, we just kind of established, right?
Yeah.
He's Bob Nightingale. He's John Heyman. He says things. It doesn't make them true. And the Royals might even be saying that, and that doesn't make it true.
Yeah, that's a good point. Greg, are you in the same boat?
Yeah, I'm not putting any stock into anything that not even John Heyman, Jim Bowden says. Especially not when it's Jim Bowden responding to like a random anonymous trade proposal.
Yeah.
So I really don't put much of anything into it at all.
Okay. All right. I wanted to get both y'all's thoughts on that because I was kind of iffy on like, is this something to actually run with, or is it just another thing in passing that'll be forgotten about after the next news cycle? Listen, speaking of Salvador Perez, we got to talk about him. I think there's not a whole lot of Royals news to talk about, and so for a good chunk of the remaining time, I want to get y'all's thoughts on Salvador Perez because it was a down year for him in 2023. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that he took a step back at the plate. He's never been a defensive savant, but I think the bigger bases kind of hurt his defensive impact. Greg, am I right in that?
I don't think it was the bigger bases as much as limiting pickoffs, but yeah, sure.
Fair. It was, well, I don't know. It was easier to steal bases with the bigger bags.
I still chalk that more up to pitchers not being as effective at holding runners on. I just don't think that the size of the bases was the main driver of the increase in stolen bases. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. I don't know how one would actually study that, but like the bases were like 2 inches closer together. Like it wasn't that big of a difference.
Listen, man, you're right. I don't know how that would be studied and quantified.
Somebody smarter than me can figure that out.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm right there with you. But all in all, Salvy posted his first negative WAR season in his career, which is just crazy to think he started playing for the Royals back in 2011. And this is his first sub-replacement year because he's struggled in some years in the past. So, this time last season, I was kind of sitting on the fence. Where does Salvy stand amongst the rest of the catchers in the MLB? Is he still a top 3 AL guy? Is he a top 5 overall in MLB? And I thought he was. Now, as I'm sitting here, I'm wondering, is he still even a top 10 catcher? Is he a guy that Royals fans should be trusting in 2024? Greg, we're having some more technical difficulties with Jeremy, unfortunately, so I want to get your thoughts first. First, do you still think that Salvy is a top 10 catcher heading into next season?
No, and I'm not sure he's even still a catcher full-time because he was playing an awful lot of first base down the stretch. There is a lot of mileage on those knees, and this is about the age that catchers tend to start to break down. I actually wrote about this in a Royals review like fairly early on in the season. I want to say it was in like May or June. And it was about Salvador because he was struggling early on in the season offensively. And I was just wondering, has time caught up to him. And I looked at all of the catchers that had like as long of careers as he did and kind of how they progressed. And generally speaking, around this age, if they hadn't already kind of fallen off the cliff performance-wise, it was about now that they did it. There was really only a few exceptions. Like Buster Posey was still amazing, but I'm pretty sure he retired after his age 33 season. He hung him up. And Buster Posey is also like a generational player and a future Hall of Famer. Brian McCann had some decent seasons after that age too, but besides him, that was basically it. Like every other catcher by this age was already either no longer good or was headed that way pretty rapidly. And especially given his offensive profile, I've always had concerns about how he's going to age, because with his approach of swinging at damn near everything, not having really any selectivity, but still hitting the ball, just hitting the hell out of the ball when he did make contact, I had concerns that once he loses even a little bit of bat speed, that approach is just not going to work anymore. Like he's just not going to be able to hit. And I don't know what sort of adjustments that he can make that would be able to give him some sort of like late career bounce back, because I feel like he's already kind of maxed himself out power wise. He can't start selling out for power any more than he already has. He's not going to start drawing more walks at this point. I mean, we have enough of a track record at this point to kind of make that assumption. I don't see anything else to fall back on, and I'm concerned that if he wasn't already low enough defensively in terms of his performance as a catcher, I mean, it could just get to the point where he's no longer even viable behind the plate. And I'm not sure with the offense performance, like I don't know if he can really make it at first base either. And so I think we might be even getting towards the end of not just Salvador Perez as a top 10 catcher, but like as a viable major league player. Like I hate to say it, I love Salvy, but we might be getting close to the end of the line here, if not already there.
Yeah, it's there are some metrics that are looking pretty scary, Greg. And it's
my issue with the trade discourse, I feel like, is I think people are still overrating how valuable he would be in a trade. Because when you consider his contract and the fact that major league teams can see the same information that I can see, and they probably have more. And so if I'm this concerned, then why would any team that actually has to worry about paying for him, as well as trading something away to acquire him, why would they want to do that? I'm having a hard time seeing why any team would actually pull a trigger on this kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of folks still value him at his 2021 level of value. You know, that's not the Salvy that you're getting in 2024 and beyond. You know, at best, 2022, he wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible either. Like, I think that's kind of the best case scenario for what you're getting for Salvador Perez after his age 33 season. Greg, do you think that's a decent benchmark?
Like, yeah, I'm not ruling out that next year he could be somewhat like he was in 2022, because his underlying metrics were still fairly similar this year in 2022. He did underperform those a little bit, but I don't think you're going to get much more than what you got in 2022. Like, if he gets an 800 OPS, you're probably pretty lucky. He's not hitting 48 home runs ever again. I'd be surprised if he ever even got to 30 ever again. So I'm not ruling out like he could be like at least a league average hitter next year, but with the defensive issues, there's not that much value in that, especially just with the amount of risk involved.
Yeah, here, Jeremy, since you're back in, I want to pose this to you. So we're talking about Salvador Perez's value and production in 2024 and beyond. Right. Now, I don't really put a whole lot into projection stats until Zips comes out. Truth be told, that seems to be the most accurate and the one that holds up best to water. But Steamer is another decent one.
Right.
And they have him projected to hit 28 homers. I'm sorry?
Who's him?
Salvador Perez.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You're good. They have him projected to hit 28 homers with 87 RBIs and be worth 1.1 wins above replacement. Do you think that is what fans should expect from Salvador Perez next season, or is that the best case scenario for him in 2024?
That's a best case scenario. 28 home runs is a lot of home runs. And Salvy would have to be healthy, and he would have to be hitting the ball hard and frequently to hit that many home runs. I just don't really anticipate that being a likely outcome.
Greg, what do you think?
That seems fairly optimistic, although I'll admit, like, I won't rule out that he can get there because it has been 136 games. If he can stay healthy for that long, I won't rule out that he can be essentially a league average hitter. You know, they have him at 260, 28 home runs. I can see that. I won't rule it out, but I'm also not holding my breath. And I gotta say, thank God they project RBI totals. Super, super valuable information there.
Listen, I said it wasn't perfect.
Funny enough, that would be the second highest RBI total of his career if he got there.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
He's never been the proverbial RBI guy.
He's hit 83 times. What the heck? Hey, he's nothing if not consistent. But, Jeremy, I want to get your thoughts before we move on altogether. Are fans overvaluing Salvy in a trade, you think?
Oh, probably. I've been kind of on record as saying that there's two ways to trade Salvador Perez. You can trade him for salary relief, and you're going to get nothing back. Or you can eat his salary, and you might get a lottery ticket or two. I saw in your show notes you had a proposed trade between the Royals and the Marlins, where they would get Avisail Garcia and Edward Cabrera. That seemed I would do that trade in a heartbeat, just because Edward Cabrera is a young pitcher with strikeout pedigree. I don't know why the Marlins would do that. So that's the problem there. But yeah, so he's not worth much. You trade him because you want to give him another chance to win, and because you want to give other guys chances to play.
There you go.
I can't imagine that Miami is that desperate to offload Avisail Garcia's contract, but I can't rule it out, I guess.
Yeah.
Some anonymous fan suggested it, so maybe they know something I don't.
Hey, listen, that trade calculator website it's a hell of a drug. All right.
God, you can come up with such stupid stuff on there. That website's so dumb.
It is. Chris Bubich has elite value on there, Jeremy. Okay, so keep living in that dream.
Well, that website just assumes that anybody that's making a lot of money has negative trade value.
Yeah. Mike Trout, one of the worst players in the league, according to that website.
Famous. Aaron Judge, horrible player. Nobody would want to trade for him.
It's awful. All right. Hey, let's go ahead and move on from Salvador Perez and talk about a couple of other Royals greats. I say question mark because I don't know if James Shields is a Royals great, but he's a pretty cool dude, I guess. The upcoming Hall of Fame ballot came out, and Carlos Beltran and James Shields are on there, including Cup of Coffee guy Jose Bautista is also on the ballot for Cooperstown. Jeremy, I want to ask you this first. Are any of those three former Royals making it to Cooperstown, you think?
Beltran probably. Maybe not this year, because he's still kind of bouncing back from the sign stealing stuff, but I think eventually he's going to.
Greg, do you disagree?
No, I think he's right about Beltran. Yeah, I figure the events of 2017 are really the only reason he's not in already.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's a big group of guys making their first appearance on the ballot. Let's see here. I'm sorry, I had it all pulled up and then I lost it. Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer, and Chase Utley are a couple of guys who are making their debuts. Adrian Gonzalez, Matt Holliday, Victor Martinez, Brandon Phillips, Jose Reyes, and David Wright are also the first ballot guys. Greg, in your opinion, any of those guys making it in this first go-around? Adrian
Beltre is first ballot. I think he's probably a slam dunk to get in. I'm not sure any of the others are. I'm not sure any of the others will get in at all at any point. Like, full disclosure, I'm a big Hall guy, so I say let's just treat it like the NBA. Put them all in. I don't care. Let's recognize them. Except for Jose Reyes, actually, because he did a domestic abuse. But the rest of the guys, I think, all very deserving. I would have James Shields in the Hall of Fame. Personally, that's obviously it's not up to me.
You can't see me. I'm giving you huge side eye right now.
I can't because your camera's off. So James Shields, he's one of the only two players since the year 2000 that put together at least 9 consecutive seasons of 200 or more innings. It's him and Mark Burley. That's it. He's one of the last great workhorse pitchers that we've had. Put him in. I say he's in. Royals legend.
Jeremy, what do you think, man?
Who was the second guy you said again? Adrian. I agree. Adrian Beltre's first ballot.
Joe. So that's that's the other guy.
Joe Mauer's in. I think. I don't know if he's first ballot, but he's in. He's got to be.
Yeah, probably not first
so.
ballot, but I think he will be eventually.
The legacy is too great, and he was kind of like MLB's golden boy there for a few years too.
He's the greatest hero in Minnesota history.
So that's a short list to choose from, Greg. Okay,
I feel like that's disrespectful to the state of Minnesota, but I've never been there, so I can't dispute it.
We've already disrespected the state of Nebraska. I'm just going for the whole northern.
I might have disrespected
is on notice now.
I might have disrespected a university. You disrespected an entire state. I feel like that's vastly different.
Listen, the state's known for a mall. Okay, that's about it.
Land of 10,000 lakes. Excuse me.
There's 10,000 because I couldn't name a single one of them.
All
right.
Whenever I think of Minnesota, I think of the book I read where characters had to plug their SUVs in, not because they were electric, but because you had to have an engine heater because it gets so cold that your car will literally not start if you don't have it warmed up by plugging it into a heater.
Try being the nation of Canada. There's an entire country north of Minnesota.
In Canada that aren't that cold. I went to Vancouver. It's perfectly temperate there.
Yeah, West Coast bias.
All right, hey, let's go ahead and keep it moving. Couple of Royals and a former Royal had some big personal milestones over the past week. Nick Prado got married, so congratulations to him. Alec Marsh proposed to his girlfriend, so they are engaged. Congratulations to him. And even that dirty Chicago White Sox player, Nicky Lopez, who we can't stand now, he got married over the past week. So congratulations to him. What, Greg? What?
Is it his fault he got traded there? What?
Yes, obviously.
You think he wants to play there? You see that
Jeremy,
team?
Nicky Lopez
we're Royals here, so my God.
That might be the one team that lets him start, so I think he does want to play there.
I think he could play in Colorado.
Oh my gosh. He would mash 20 homers in Colorado.
I want to see that now. We got to get Nicky Lopez to the Rockies. Make it happen, Chris Getz. Come on.
We'll see. We'll see. It's a long winter. All right, let's go ahead and get on out of here with some Royals reviews, guys. Jeremy, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I've got a game I'm playing that I really want to pitch, but I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I want to get a fuller experience of it to describe it better. So what I'm going to give you is I'm going to tell you that if you are not subscribed to Secret Base on YouTube, you are missing out. Secret Base is an SB Nation YouTube channel, and most of their videos come from John Boys, or at least half of them. A lot of the videos come from John Boys. If you've never heard of John Boys, I discovered him when he did the Breaking Bad series on SB Nation a few years ago, and it was hilarious. He is both hilarious and just so smart and so talented. And not right now, they've actually finished it, but I'm watching. They're doing a real deep dive into the Minnesota Vikings, their whole history. And it's really interesting because I'd heard of the Purple People Eaters, but I didn't know who made up the Purple People Eaters and why were they so good. And now I do, and I know about Franz Harkington, and that Patrick Mahomes is not the first one to do this because Franz Harkington did it first. Except he still couldn't throw across his body like Patrick Mahomes can. Just really cool things. You learn so much. They had another series a couple of years ago that they did about the Falcons, which was a lot of fun. Someday maybe they'll get to the Chiefs or the Royals. They did the Mariners. Was a really good time, the one with the Mariners. So they do these things fairly regularly. They got some other funny videos on there too that they do where they try and break different video games. They've got some other people that do videos where they talk about weird rules or strange things that have happened in sports or beefs in sports, which can be kind of fun to listen about or watch about. So Secret Base YouTube channel, but especially those deep dives into the Vikings, Falcons, and Mariners are just a really great time.
Awesome. Okay. I'll have to go check them out. Secret Base on YouTube. I like that. Greg, what you got, man?
I'll second that plug from Jeremy. So, fellas, let's get political here real quick. I just recently finished this book, Reign of Terror, How the 9/11 Era Destabilized America and Produced Trump, written by Spencer Ackerman. I was a young child when 9/11 happened, so I don't really remember it or the immediate aftermath of it. But this made me learn how America just went absolutely insane after 9/11 happened, and about all of the horrible things that happened as a result of the bloodthirsty Islamophobia that followed that event. And so if you want to just get really, really angry while reading a book, you can check this out, because I was just absolutely infuriated on pretty much every page. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it other than that.
Informed and infuriated at
full history of the war on terror. Some light reading,
Yeah, just some light bedtime reading to really chill out at the end of the evening. I'm gonna go a lot lighter on my review. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before, but I absolutely love the streaming service Tubi. Definitely like my favorite go-to for background noise shows. There's a whole bunch of shows that like, hey, I don't know where to stream it, and it's magical here. Like, I want to watch the Bernie Mac show for no reason. It's on Tubi and it's free. I just found out that they have the uncensored versions of Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares from like all the seasons. So I want to sit down and listen to Gordon Ramsay berate people for multiple hours. Cool. It's on Tubi. Listen, as more and more streaming services pop up and prices are going up, stuff like that, I'm all for finding cheap alternatives, and I think Tubi's a pretty good one out there. So don't watch their original stuff because it's awful. Okay, it is absolutely terrible. But if you're looking for some older TV shows and just something to put on for entertainment, you could go with Tubi. I like
Pluto TV too.
Oh yeah, that's another good one out there.
And no free ads. Come on.
Sponsor us.
I don't know our worth, guys. Okay,
I'll come up with a negative review at some point.
I'm afraid I do know our worth, and yeah, we don't have any sponsors. So,
yeesh. All right, well, at least we're keeping up with the Royals, I guess. Alrighty, guys, let's go ahead and get on out of here. It's the night before Thanksgiving, so we got some rest to go do before a weekend of rest. For everyone out there listening on Thursday, happy Thanksgiving. Go spend it with some family. Go be thankful for the people in your life and the things that make your life great. Just remember, there's always some bright spots, no matter how dark the clouds are. Thank you for listening along with us. We hope we entertained you. Greg, thank you for joining us this evening once again. And Jeremy, sorry you were so in and out, man. That had to be frustrating.
Yes. Hopefully I have not corrupted the entire podcast again.
Well, hey, just think. If people are listening to this, that means you didn't.
Hooray.
All right, everyone. If you want to stay up to date on the Kansas City Royals, you got to go check out RoyalsReview.com. That's where you can find Greg's work, Jeremy's work, and a whole host of people just talking about the Kansas City Royals. You can find them on X and Facebook as well. You can find us on X and TikTok at Royal Rundown Pod. This is Jake Milham. Thank you so much for supporting us, and thank you for listening. And until next time, go Royals!